To the other nominees, Ms. Reyes, you do a lot of work in asylum cases. Briefly describe to us what an asylum case is and give us some examples of cases that you think have been a test to the justice system in America.
Thank you, Senator.
You make sure you turn your mic on.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, individuals who are refugees are individuals who cannot receive or will not receive protection from their governments for a type of persecution based on a number of factors, such as their race or their political opinion or their religion. I have represented a number of these individuals, some of whom were literally fleeing for their lives. One individual was jailed because of his political beliefs. Every day while he was there, they would take him out for hot coughing, which meant that they would hang him upside down, put tar on his feet, turn him back right side up, and make him walk around the prison guards or the prison floor. He was able to escape and flee to the United States. We were able to get him asylum. He subsequently went on to get a master's in engineering, become a citizen, get married, and he just had a second daughter 2 days ago. I also represented 4 young women who were, along with all of their other classmates, kidnapped at gunpoint. Boko Haram put their school on fire, and they took all of the girls to a forest. Many of them have since died. My clients were able to escape. We were able to get them into the United States legally on humanitarian parole, and then we were able to get each of the girls asylum. Those 4 girls are now in college. One has a 4.0 GPA and wants to be a doctor. Another one was an ROTC in high school and college. She is currently in schooling to become a lieutenant in the Air Force. When my friend Dee asked her why the Air Force, she said, "I want to protect the country that has protected me." I think that is what asylum does for us. It allows people who are fleeing violence to find refuge in the United States. They come here and they become citizens who contribute to our society.
In these cases, these asylum cases, some arise from a process of filings, people who are in refugee camps around the world who seek asylum, I think through the United Nations, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct, Senator.
And many are carefully investigated before they're allowed to even be considered for refugee status, asylum status.
That's correct, Senator. And even when they apply for asylum, they receive a second check from both the Department of State and, I believe, DOJ.
At our southern border, though, it's a different story. They have not, the vast majority have not filed papers before they arrive. They claim asylum status at the border, and they have to have a kind of a preliminary, a threshold proof that they have a credible fear along certain specific areas. Is that correct?
That's correct, Senator. It's often quite difficult for them. Many of them don't speak English. They don't understand the process. They invariably do not have lawyers, so they are basically trying to explain why their lives are in danger in a system that they don't understand and in a language that they don't understand.
And those who do present themselves at the border, if you know, are subject to that initial determination of credible fear and then go through a hearing and maybe an ultimate court decision. Are you familiar with that process?
I am, Senator. Our firm has handled many of those cases.
Do you have any idea what percentage of those who come to our border seeking asylum or refugee status and go into the process are actually approved to stay in the United States?
Sir, I don't have that in front of me. What I do know is that a vast majority of the individuals who pass the credible fear interview do go on to become asylees. They do ultimately get asylum through the court process.
And I might add that there are limitations on their roles in the United States, even as asylees. Is that not true?
There is from people coming abroad, as you note, from UNHCR and other entities. And there are also, I believe, restrictions or caps on the number of individuals who can receive green cards every year.
Ms. Haynes, I want to ask you, Judge Haynes, your experience with drug courts in Virginia.
Thank you, Senator, for that question. I do have the privilege to preside over our reentry court in the Richmond Division of the Eastern District of Virginia. And that court admits individuals who are serving a term of supervised release where substance abuse is a primary factor in their potential violations of their conditions of their supervised release. And so I work together with probation, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Federal Public Defender's Office, as well as counselors and community members to advise and supervise and assist these individuals in reaching sobriety and maintaining that sobriety.
So what is your experience? There's some skeptics and cynics who say it's a waste of time. If they're addicts, they'll always be addicts. And others say this is a disease. Addiction is a disease. It should be treated as such. And our legal system should be aware of that fact and not waste a lot of time and resources if proper medical assistance is all that's needed. What's been your experience?
Thank you, Senator. My experience, and I believe that the statistics demonstrate that there's about a 50% success rate in drug courts, but my personal observations, we recently had 2 individuals graduate from our drug court program, and to see the change in their lives, the fact that they can be available to their families, that they have jobs, it is immensely rewarding. And I think the entire team in Richmond, as well as the other district court judges, fully support the program.
How long have you been involved in either drug courts or legal practice associated with drug courts?
I've presided over our drug court program for the past 2 years as a federal magistrate judge, and then previously as an assistant federal public defender. Many of my clients were admitted into the program, and I explained the benefits of the program and the rigors of the program to them.
Over how many years would that be?
I was a federal public defender for 7 years, Senator.
I noted something that you may or may not have seen the same, but the opioid crisis introduced a new class of addiction. It was no longer the stereotypical addict who was usually, in many instances, a person who was a minority, male, at a certain age group, and most people would have predicted if they heard about a drug overdose that the victim fit into that classification. Opioids changed the conversation completely. It now involved high school students in the suburbs and perfectly successful by external means individuals who became addicted and their lives were almost ruined, if not compromised by the experience. Our conversation changed. It was a discussion then not about just say no, but about the addictive notion and whether or not it was a health consequence that we ought to view from a health perspective. I think there's been more open-mindedness about it since, and I think we ought to be cognizant of that. I thank you for your work in that area.